A dead log lying in your backyard, the kind most people drag to the curb on garbage day or chip into mulch without a second thought. That log, inoculated with the right fungus, will produce mushrooms worth $600 per pound. Not from a greenhouse, not from a laboratory, from dead wood, mycelium, and thyme. Fresh lion's mane sells for $40 to $60 per pound at farmers markets. Dried lion's mane commands $400 to $600 per pound online. The log that produces it costs nothing. The spawn that starts it costs $5. And once inoculated, that log keeps producing for 5 years without another dollar invested. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to start, what to buy, what to avoid, and why nobody in the mushroom industry wanted you to figure this out first. If you have ever paid $8 for a small pack of mushrooms at a grocery store, if you have ever seen a restaurant charge $30 for a dish featuring a few ounces of lion's mane, if you have ever walked past a fallen tree in your neighborhood without the second glance, you are about to see dead wood in a completely different way. The mushroom industry has built a $1.2 billion American market on the premise that cultivation is technical, risky, and requires expertise most people simply do not have. They have wrapped 1,000-year-old technology in jargon, sterility warnings, and laboratory aesthetics to make you believe that growing gourmet mushrooms is beyond your reach. None of that is true. What they have actually done is take knowledge that Chinese mountain farmers mastered over 1,000 years ago, dress it in complexity, and charge you $60 per pound for the result. But the biology does not care about their business model. And by the end of this video, neither will you. The story begins in the mountains of Zhejiang province in China around the year 1000 AD. A farmer named Wu Sanquang was working in the forest near Qingyuan when he noticed something. When he cut down certain hardwood trees and left the logs in shaded clearings, a specific mushroom appeared. Dense, meaty, intensely flavored. The shiitake. Emperors considered it a delicacy worth taxing. Merchants traded it like currency. And Wu had stumbled onto its source. But he did not wait for nature to decide. He began deliberately wounding logs, scoring the bark with an axe, hammering wedges into the wood to create entry points. The wounds invited the fungus in. Months later, mushrooms erupted from the wood, like treasure appearing from nothing. His technique was documented in Song Dynasty agricultural texts and passed generation to generation. By the time European traders arrived in China, 700 years later, mushroom log cultivation was so widespread that chroniclers described it as a defining feature of rural village life. Ordinary farmers growing food that imperial courts paid fortunes for. No laboratory, no specialized equipment, no expertise beyond what a neighbor taught you in an afternoon. That knowledge never arrived in the Western world in any meaningful way. When the American mushroom industry developed in the 20th century, it built something entirely different. Not forests and logs, factories and subscriptions. In 1967, the American mushroom industry was dominated by white button production in Pennsylvania's Chester County. Companies like Giorgio Foods and Phillips Mushrooms controlled the market using pasteurized compost substrate, climate-controlled growing rooms, and proprietary spawn that farmers purchased every single cycle. You could not save your own spawn. You could not reuse substrate indefinitely. Every harvest required a new purchase. The dependency was engineered directly into the production model. When shiitake and oyster mushrooms began arriving in American markets in the 1980s, the industry faced a genuine threat. These species grew naturally on wood logs. The cultivation method was thousands of years old and completely public domain. Anyone with a free log, a $20 bag of spawn, and a drill could produce restaurant-quality gourmet mushrooms at home. No proprietary equipment, no mandatory substrate purchases, no ongoing dependency of any kind. So the industry did something that has become a familiar pattern. They built an image problem around the method. Trade publications described log cultivation as unpredictable and slow. Agricultural extension offices warned about contamination risk and low yield consistency. Attention shifted to indoor bag cultivation on sterilized sawdust, a method requiring sterile technique, pressure cookers, and grain spawn that could not be sourced locally or saved between grows. The complexity was not inherent to mushroom biology. It was manufactured, and the manufacturing worked almost completely. Today, in a country where nearly every neighborhood has free hardwood logs available within walking distance, fewer than 3% of homeowners have ever attempted mushroom cultivation. The information exists, the biology is simple, but the framing around it convinced an entire generation that growing mushrooms was something only experts did. But here is what the sterility theater was designed to distract you from, because what mushrooms actually do biologically threatens multiple industries at once. And that is where this story gets genuinely strange. Lion's mane. Mushrooms contain compounds called erinacines and hericenones that do something no synthetic pharmaceutical on the market can reliably replicate. They stimulate the production of nerve growth factor in the brain. That means real, measurable nerve regeneration. A study published in the journal Phytotherapy Research in 2009 found that elderly patients who consumed lion's mane daily for 16 weeks showed significant and measurable cognitive improvements compared to a control group. When supplementation stopped, the benefits declined. When it resumed, they returned. A University of Malaya study in 2011 confirmed the cellular mechanism. Erinacines cross the blood-brain barrier and directly stimulate nerve growth factor synthesis in brain tissue. The researchers concluded that lion's mane offered a practical dietary means of protecting and supporting cognitive function. The pharmaceutical industry noticed. From 2000 to 2020, over 200 patents were filed on isolated mushroom compounds. Companies raced to synthesize in laboratories what grows freely on dead logs in your backyard, not to make the medicine more accessible, but to make it patentable. You cannot own a mushroom. You can own a synthetic analog, and synthetic analogs generate quarterly earnings reports. A free log does not. Oyster mushrooms add another layer entirely. They naturally contain lovastatin, the exact same compound sold commercially as Mevacor, a prescription statin medication worth over $15 billion annually in the global cholesterol drug market. A single serving of oyster mushrooms delivers a measurable dose of the same molecule your doctor prescribes for $40 per month. You can grow oyster mushrooms on spent coffee grounds in a 5-gallon bucket with $3 of spawn and a drill. Walk into any coffee shop and ask for their used grounds. They will hand you bags for free, grateful to reduce waste. Your $3 investment will produce continuous mushroom flushes for 6 months. The pharmaceutical industry has no interest in your doctor recommending that, and neither does the grocery chain charging $8 for 4 ounces. And if you think the story stops at medicine and money, wait until you hear what happened in a basement in Ohio, because the numbers are going to change how you look at the dead wood in your neighborhood permanently. In 2016, a retired electrical engineer named Tom Fisher in Columbus had one goal. His wife had been diagnosed with a cognitive condition that early research suggested might respond to regular lion's mane consumption. He was not a farmer. He had no science background. He ordered $20 of shiitake plug spawn online. He called a local tree service and asked if they had any hardwood logs they needed to get rid of. They loaded 8 oak logs into his car for free, glad to save the disposal cost. He drilled holes in a diamond pattern across each log, tapped in the plugs with a hammer, sealed every hole with melted beeswax he bought at a craft store for $4, stacked the logs in his cool basement, on wooden pallets, and waited. 4 months later, the first flush arrived. 12 pounds of shiitake mushrooms from 8 logs, at his local farmer's market price of $15 per pound. That single harvest was worth $180. His total cash investment had been $24. The logs were free, the drill he already owned. By his second year, Fisher had expanded to 60 logs. Shiitake, lion's mane, oyster. His basement operation occupied 100 square feet, roughly the area of a large walk-in closet. It was producing between $800 and $1,200 per month, had farmers' market prices. He sold every pound within the first hour of opening each Saturday. Local restaurants began approaching him directly, offering premium prices for weekly delivery of lion's mane they could not source reliably from commercial distributors. He had not purchased a grocery store mushroom in 2 years. His wife reported measurable improvements in clarity and memory that her neurologist acknowledged with interest. And Tom was spending approximately 3 hours per week on total maintenance. Here is why this is not just a personal story. It is a blueprint. Tom Fisher's 60 logs occupy 100 square feet of space that most people use to store boxes they have not opened since they moved in. That operation produces a product commanding premium prices at every outlet, from farmers markets to Michelin star kitchens. A product that requires no soil, no sunlight, no irrigation, no seeds, no season. That grows on material tree services genuinely pay money to dispose of. And that produces the same compounds pharmaceutical companies are racing to patent. The logs your neighbor dragged to the curb last Saturday are worth $200 each over their production lifetime. The oak from the city maintenance crew that chipped a fallen tree on your block could have produced a year's worth of gourmet mushrooms. Every piece of hardwood you have walked past without thinking is raw material for one of the most profitable small-scale food operations that exists, and it has been sitting in plain sight the entire time. Here is exactly how to start today. You need hardwood logs no more than 3 months old. Oak, maple, beech, alder, and elm all work well. Avoid cedar, black walnut, and any pine or conifer. Choose logs 3 to 8 inches in diameter and 12 to 40 inches long. Call any tree service in your area. Ask if they have hardwood rounds available. The answer will almost always be yes, and they will likely give them away free or at minimal cost to save themselves disposal fees. You need plug spawn, wooden dowels pre-colonized with mushroom mycelium. Order spawn from North Spore, Fungi Perfecti, or Field and Forest Products. A bag of 100 plugs costs $12 to $18 and inoculates 4 to 6 logs. Choose shiitake for reliability on almost any hardwood. Choose lion's mane for maximum value per pound. Choose oyster for the fastest first flush, often within 6 to 8 weeks. You need a 5/16 of an inch drill bit and a hammer to tap in the plugs until they sit flush with the bark surface. Use cheese wax or beeswax, melted and painted over every hole to seal out contamination. That is the complete equipment list. Total startup cost for 6 logs is $20 to $30. Drill holes across each log in a diamond pattern, spacing them roughly 6 inches apart and staggered around the full circumference. Tap 1 plug into each hole, seal with wax, stack logs horizontally in a shaded location, outdoors in dappled light, or in a cool basement, resting on pallets so air can circulate underneath. Water them weekly if outdoors and conditions are dry. Mist lightly once or twice a week if indoors. In 4 to 8 months you will see pinning. Tiny mushroom primordia, barely visible, will push through the bark. Within days, a full flush erupts. Harvest by twisting at the base or cutting close to the wood. Refill any water the log has lost. The next flush will follow in 6 to 8 weeks. A single shiitake log, producing conservatively 1 pound per flush, with 3 flushes per year over 4 years, returns 12 pounds of mushrooms from a free log, for a spawn cost of $5. At $10 per pound wholesale, that is $120. At farmers market retail of $20 per pound, that is $240. For direct restaurant pricing of specialty lion's mane, $300 to $500 over the log's lifetime. That is the math on one log. Multiply it by the number of hardwood trees you can see from your window right now, because every one of those eventual logs is sitting capital, dormant, patient, and waiting. This is what Wu Sangquang understood in the mountains of Zhejiang 1,000 years ago. What Song Dynasty farmers built entire local economies around. What the American mushroom industry spent 50 years obscuring, with manufactured complexity, jargon, and the quiet suppression of public information about something that grows for free. The fungus does not know any of that history. It only needs dead wood, moisture, and a small window of time. Give it those 3 things and it will return more value per square foot than almost any other food system you can build. The dead log in your backyard is not yard waste. It is a farm waiting to be activated, a pharmacy growing in silence, a revenue stream rotting away on the curb because the companies that sell you dried mushroom capsules for $40 a bottle needed you to believe that what they sell cannot be grown at home. It always could be, it still can. The only thing that has changed is that now you know. If this opens something for you, if you now look at dead wood differently, subscribe for more of what the industry hoped you would never learn. The logs are waiting. The spawn is cheap. The only thing that runs out is time.